Okay, so ever feel like you could use a bit of a level up when it comes to talking with your partner?
Yeah.
I know I have.
hmm
We're going depth on 5 communication tips that really go beyond the surface, right?
Absolutely.
Like not just telling you what to do, but really getting into that why it matters. It's almost like having a little cheat sheet for having like way more meaningful conversations with the person, that you're closest to.
And what I think is so cool about these tips is that they're not, some magic tricks. They're really grounded in like real psychology,
Yeah.
how we connect as humans.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So it's something everybody can tap into.
Totally, totally. And first up is I think something we hear about a lot, but maybe don't always get quite right, active listening. It's easy to think, "Oh yeah, I do that." But are we really really tuned in, or are we, I know I've been guilty of this, just kind of waiting for my turn to talk.
Yeah, it's so easy to think you're listening, but really your brain is already like 2 steps ahead, formulating your response.
Totally.
Right. But active listening is about really absorbing what your partner's saying, not just like the words, but the emotions behind them too. Like there's even research, believe it or not, showing that when you actively listen to someone, it can actually trigger the release of oxytocin, which is, the bonding hormone.
No way.
It
You're
deepens feelings of trust and connection just from listening.
Wow. So it's like it's not even just like a communication skill, you're actually impacting their brain chemistry.
It's powerful. It's
Mm.
like it shows your partner, you're important to me. I value what you have to say. I understand you. And that builds such a stronger foundation for any relationship, romantic or not.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So how do we move past just sort of, you know, passively hearing to like actively truly listening? What are some ways to put that into practice?
Yeah. So, I mean, imagine like your partner's just had a crazy stressful day,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And they're telling you about it. Instead of like instantly jumping into problem solving mode, which is so easy to do,
Oh, I know.
try just reflecting back what you're hearing. Like, that sounds incredibly frustrating. I can totally see why you're upset. That validation alone can work wonders.
Yeah. Just that acknowledgement, I think, can go such a long way. Okay. So that's active listening. Tip number 2. This one is all about I statements. I feel like we've all heard this one before.
We have, but there's a reason it keeps coming up.
Right. What's the deeper why behind this one?
Use statements, those ones like you always or you never, tend to make people defensive. It's like instant wall goes up. But when you start with I feel, it just shifts the whole dynamic. It's not about blaming the other person. It's about taking ownership of how you feel. And that opens the door for a way more productive conversation because then you can actually get to the root of what's going on.
It's amazing how just that slight tweak in language can make such a difference. Instead of, that classic you never do the dishes, it's I feel overwhelmed when the kitchen's a mess.
Right. Exactly. And it invites the other person to be like, oh, okay, well, how can I help with that? Instead of being like, well, that's not true. And,
Yeah.
it just goes down this whole different path.
Right, you're on the same team trying to solve the problem together.
Exactly.
So much better. Okay, we are on a roll. On to tip number 3, clarity over coffee talk. This one, I think this one feels very, very relevant in my own life.
It's so important. I think we all struggle with it sometimes.
Yeah.
Vague communication is like a recipe for disaster in relationships because it just leads to all these misunderstandings, resentment, frustration.
Oh, 100%.
It's like trying to read a map with like half the pieces missing. You're never going to get where you need to go.
Yes, next thing, be more helpful around the house.
Right.
What does that even mean? Like, be specific.
Exactly. So instead of just assuming your partner knows what you need, try something like, hey, could you take care of the dishes tonight?
Yeah.
It would be a huge help.
Yeah.
So you're being direct. You're saying exactly what you need, but you're still being kind about it.
Right, right. And that can apply to so many different things, not just, who's doing the dishes. Like if you're feeling, I don't know, unappreciated, instead of saying, you never compliment me, it's like it would mean the world to me if you noticed, blah blah blah, the effort I'm putting into this.
Such a difference.
So much better, right? Okay, I feel like we're on a roll. Tip number 4. Checking for understanding. This one might seem straightforward, but I have a feeling there's more to it.
There is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy to just assume you're on the same page as someone, you've been together for however long. But you'd be surprised how often we're actually like reading totally different books.
Oh, for sure.
So checking for understanding is all about making sure the message you're sending is actually the message that's being received. And it goes both ways. You're checking in with them, they're checking in with you.
It's like when you're putting together like IKEA furniture or something, right? And you're reading the instructions out loud just to make sure everyone's following along.
That's exactly.
Okay, okay.
Or after a serious conversation, take a moment to just summarize what you heard, not to like parrot them, but just to say, okay, so what I'm hearing you say is, and that way they can either be like, exactly, or no, that's not quite it.
Right.
Right. But it just ensures that you're both on the same page.
Yeah. And it avoids those moments later where you're like, wait, but I thought we were talking about this. And it's like, no, we're talking about something totally different. Okay, final tip, and this is a big one. Scheduling connection time. Now this one might sound a little bit, I don't know, unromantic at first.
It does. It sounds very unsexy.
Right, right. But I'm sensing it's pretty crucial.
It's so important because life gets busy, and it's so easy to let like quality time with your partner just slip away because you're both so caught up in work and kids and just all the things. But relationships, they thrive on that connection.
Right.
So even just scheduling, like 15 minutes a day to just chat without distractions, no phones, no TV, just you and them eye to eye.
Just like be present.
Yeah. You're going to make such a difference.
It's about being proactive. Like
yeah.
You're making your relationship a priority the same way you make, everything else in your life a priority.
Yeah, you wouldn't just like not go to work for a week and expect your job to still be there.
Right.
You got to put in the time. Think of it like watering a plant. You can't just like hope it thrives.
Right.
You got to give it that consistent love and care.
I love that analogy. It's so true. So listeners, as you wrap up with us today, what's one small thing you can take from this deep dive and actually like put into practice? Maybe it's trying an I statement next time you're feeling frustrated, or maybe it's actually getting that 15-minute connection time on the calendar. It doesn't have to be, this huge, overwhelming thing. Small steps can make a really big difference.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest thing to remember is, relationships are always a work in progress. And the fact that you're even listening to this, you're already on the right track.
Yeah.
You're already showing up for your relationship. So just keep going.
Love it. I'm feeling inspired. I'm feeling ready to connect.
Me too.
Until next time.
Bye.